The Gaza ceasefire has been announced. It hasn't taken effect yet. And I'm among those who are mortified by what has happened. And I want to see the ceasefire take effect and be lasting. I don't intend to encroach on Palestinian concerns or issues. It's really not my precinct. Nor do I agree with the interpretation of either side involved. Again, I had other things that I was working on. The fundamentalist tripartite society, the power structure in the Middle East and in Eurasia and in the United States, singled me out in the 80s for a cruel and unusual experiment to justify pornographic genocide. They were scoring abortions off of me through a pornography industry run by Yoko Ono, who ducked responsibility by planting evidence on me, supposedly showing that I was negligent in the murder of John Lennon. The person who wrote the letters was never bothered. She's on their team, which means it was Hollywood, a stunt, and there was Lennon Sudini. But Lennon Sudini was meant to be certified by the law, which it was, and signify martyrdom. The practice of martyrdoms is being extolled by the socialists. The TikTok war is closing. It's owned by BlackRock, and the strutter of Echo U signs off with the Gaza ceasefire. I've watched them and they've watched me. They've watched me. Seattle's doofus committee, Seattle's senior administration, their union, they're Yoko Ono loyalists in the Green Party who claimed that they had the right to authorize the AIDS attack and pretend that that's not what they did in the two versions pussy ball game. Have little rabble rousing stock phrases like suffer not a fool to live, which they circulate through their alliance through Obama with people in the KKK structure who agreed to this thinning of the trod for the arc because nobody wanted to take responsibility for responsible education and sustainable development practices. So they went the road of Jonah's Salk. The good Lord giveth, the good Lord taketh away. And we're stuck with that. And they built a prison that I've described, two virgins pussy ball. But the way they've looked at me needs to be reviewed. So that's what I propose to do. They claimed with two tongues from UW Dialectical, which is their want, that racism against darker skinned Palestinians was visible. Well, since that didn't apply to me, they said, well, you don't go crazy about the genocide in Sudan because they're black people. So the Palestinians are now the white people. And it is true that when I'm doom scrolling, I seldom stop at pretty black girls or the problems of the Congo. And the observers at UW Dialectical naturally make note of this. But they don't note that life preceded the TikTok presentation, which is owned by BlackRock, by the way. And where life preceded, they have disappeared my very precious divestment article in the 80s, which was too well written, too sincere, and interfered with the game that they were playing on me. Life doesn't let you turn the clock back. I'm 64, and they have brutally tortured me, promoting a contemptible fight club in which they quote me out of context, saying that I have uttered death sentences in their pornographic genocide. It's contemptible. And what they do is they say Mount Desert Island was an emergency service, that I was being rescued from myself. Well, all very swell for what it is. It was a desperate legerdemain by people who wanted to spend all the money, tax and spend on nefarious war machines. We've seen where it leads to the outrage of genocide in Gaza. War sells, but who's buying? Who's buying this stuff? We need sustainable development goals. That has not changed. We need reasonable and compassionate education. That has not changed. I had to get to the bottom of a pornographic genocide. So I followed the behavioral norms of the underclass in the city of Pittsburgh, which was providing the cheering section for those who targeted me, and the leadership of the Green Party and the Black community who play a shell game and legerdemain on behalf of the Jeffen Corporation, on behalf of honorary white save-once like Sting and Peter Gabriel, clocked how much interest I had in the Sudan. It's not that I wasn't sincere when I was campaigning for the Hunger Project at the University of Pittsburgh. I spoke well of African nations and predicted that when the opportunity came to help them through dissemination of information, there would be a controversy, a tug of war between the military-industrial complex. I didn't know Paul McCartney would be backing the suppression of assistance to Africa and playing a game of hiding my intentions and promoting a fraudulent persona about me. But the construction of the persona that Greg Carl devised and described was adopted by the NAACP. They said I was interfering with the way that they were using me when I wrote my divestment article, which now they won't allow to be found in archive searches. So Seattle Duke Baggery can blow me.